It is St. Patrick's Day. I don't know why my calendar is supposed to alert me of this. I wasn't thinking this morning,
Right.
But I realized as soon as I got to work.
Your high school coach didn't call you?
No, my high school coach did not call me to tell me. He only calls me to tell me to set back my clock.
Exactly.
In October. St. Patrick's Day kicks off. I've been telling that joke for a long time, and everyone always believes me. I'm like, no, really, Mike.
No, I believed it for a long time.
I'm like, no, the man's not calling me. He's probably dead. He was like an old man when I was in high school. St. Patrick's Day kicks off a worldwide celebration, also known as the Feast of St. Patrick, on March 17th. Many wear green in honor of the Irish and decorate with shamrocks. According to lore, the wearing of the green tradition dates back to a story written about St. Patrick in 1726. St. Patrick was alive, by the way, between 385 and 461 AD. And he used the shamrock to illustrate the Holy Trinity and wore green clothing. And while the story is unlikely to be true, many revel in the Irish heritage and eat traditional Irish fare. And I'm telling you, I'm sure somebody's going to see our show and say, no, Brad, the story's true.
Right.
So if you believe the story's true, then fantastic.
There you go.
Who am I to disagree with you? In the United States.
You weren't there, right?
I wasn't there. In the United States, St. Patrick's Day has been celebrated since before the country was formed. So this St. Patrick's Day celebrations go back before 1776. And at times the holiday's been a bit rowdy because people like to drink, especially green beer. Mm-hmm. They like to have parades and sometimes even dress up like a leprechaun.
Yeah.
Now, however, in Ireland, this is interesting. I didn't know this. St. Patrick's Day takes a more solemn mood. It wasn't until events in the United States broadcast in Ireland that some of the Yankee Irish people ways spread across the pond to the more traditional mainland Ireland. And one Irish American tradition not common to Ireland is corned beef and cabbage.
Wow.
They do not eat corned beef and cabbage on St. Patrick's Day.
But they do it
But
here.
they do it here.
We always change stuff up, though.
Yeah. So here's some ways to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. You could wear green. You could read up about St. Patrick's Day. Cook an Irish feast. You can use hashtag St. Patrick's Day to post on social media. You can drink green beer.
There you go.
Right there.
Yeah.
Or join in a parade or watch a parade.
I've done a couple parades.
Right?
Yes.
All right. Meanwhile, there was a parade here in New York City. There wasn't a parade because of COVID in the last year, but there was the annual St. Patrick's Day parade. It made its in-person return to New York City today, and it marches up Fifth Avenue, or marches actually down Fifth Avenue, after virtual celebrations in the last 2 years because of COVID. In an acknowledgement of the past 2 years, the parade held a moment of silence at noon outside St. Patrick's Cathedral, which is, I believe, on 49th Street and Fifth Avenue. Beautiful church.
Nice.
They had a moment of silence at noon to mark the 20th anniversary of 9/11 and the victims of the pandemic, and also a moment of silence in recognition of the people in Ukraine and what they are going through at this very moment.
Nice.
Mayor Adams said, New York City, because he spoke, New York City is a city of immigrants, rich in its culture and diversity, and our Irish brothers and sisters have contributed to our city's history for generations. This St. Patrick's Day, we honor those Irish immigrants who relocated and helped build our city, and the many Irish Americans who serve New York City to this day. Today we celebrate the fighting spirit of the Irish with the courage and resilience of this entire city. And an interesting fact, Jonathan, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, there are 31.5 million people in the United States of America who claim Irish ancestry.
Oh.
And if you say that the U.S. is about 330 million people, it's almost 1 out of 10. Almost.
Yeah.
1 out of 10, can make a claim to Irish ancestry.
Nice.
And the Department of Homeland Security today, they have reinstituted its Independent Advisory Council nearly a year after Department of Homeland Security head Mayorkas disbanded it. And the reason he disbanded it was full of pumpkin lovers.
Yeah.
Okay? And we don't mean pumpkin lovers for Halloween.
Right.
We mean pumpkin lovers for that pumpkin in the White House. So as soon as the Secretary, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas took control of the Department of Homeland Security, he said, you, and you, get out of here and make sure the door don't hit you on the ass on the way out. Well, he now has put together a new independent advisory council. It's made up of 33 members, including former Department of Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff, General Motors CEO Mary Barra, and Kids in Need of Defense President Wendy Young. Others include the CEO of Girls Who Code, Tarika Barrett, Chobani founder and CEO Hamdi Uluka, United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby, former president of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives Linda R. Williams, and former Defense Secretary Leon Panetta. The whole reason behind this nonpartisan group of leaders is to have some thought leaders who come from outside of the government so that there is not a groupthink with inside the government. Sometimes you have a groupthink where you get like-minded people and they all yes each other and say, great idea, great idea, great idea, great idea. And then it turns out not such a great idea. Perfect example of groupthink, Putin and his advisors. They all talked themselves into, great idea, let's invade Ukraine. Wasn't such a great idea. So that's why you have outside advisors to say, wait a second.
That makes sense.
Wait a second. Maybe we shouldn't invade Ukraine. Or maybe we shouldn't put this policy at the Department of Homeland Security in place. And Biden talking about Putin, called him a war criminal. It was the harshest condemnation of Putin's actions from any U.S. official since the war in Ukraine began 3 weeks ago. The shift from the administration's previous stance came after an emotional address to Congress from Ukrainian President Zelenskyy, who aired a video showing Ukrainians suffering amid Russia's onslaught. Zelenskyy asked American lawmakers again to help defend itself, including a no-fly zone. Biden's response is he cannot do a no-fly zone. And the reason he cannot do a no-fly zone is if you do a no-fly zone, the thinking is you are now in direct combat with the Russians. And that now, as President Biden said, I think I'm paraphrasing him, that now, ladies and gentlemen, is World War III. So the United States and NATO is doing everything in its power to help defend Ukraine without actually confronting the Russians. I actually saw a Gallup poll came out today that said 75% of Americans believe that the United States should do everything in its power to defend Ukraine, short of having a no-fly zone. 19% of Americans said that they should do everything in their power to support Ukraine and have a no-fly zone, even if that includes the potential for war with Russia.
Wow.
So you are looking at a country at this moment where 94% of Americans who live in the United States of America support what Biden is doing, what NATO is doing. 94%. That's almost the entire country behind everything that NATO and the United States is doing right now. Whether you agree on having a no-fly zone or not having a no-fly zone, it's almost unanimous in the United States of America that we should be doing everything within our power without escalating to support Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. Now, other world leaders, including British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, said last week war crimes were being committed. Now, the definition of a war crime is when you intend, one of the definitions, there could be more, I'm not an expert on it, but I know one of the definitions of a war crime is when you intentionally target innocent civilians. So when an army intentionally targets innocent civilians, rather than fighting a war army versus army, that becomes a war crime under international law. There may be other war crimes as well, but that is one of them. The Russians have bombed hospitals, maternity wards, shelters where children were living. The question becomes, was it intentional? At some point, you can argue because you don't know what's in the person's mind. If it happens over and over and over and over again, you can argue that at some point it's got to be intentional. If it happens on a one-off instance and all the other instances it has not happened, well, you can make an argument that, sometimes missiles go astray.
Yeah.
But if it happens time and time and time and time and time and time and time again, which it appears is what's happening in Ukraine right now, and the reason it's happening is because the Ukrainians are fighting back and Russia hasn't made much advance. So they're now going scorched earth.
Does it have to be missiles, or can it be like the soldiers
that
have
been killing? Anything.
But they've been killing people.
That is correct.
That right there seems pretty intentional.
That's why Biden. That's why Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and that's why the United States Senate asked for the entire United States Senate, all 100 senators, has asked for an international investigation into war crimes. In Poland last week, Vice President Kamala Harris called for international investigations into war crimes. And Biden delivered his assessment. The White House said the administration's investigation into war crimes is also continuing. Yesterday, talking about war crimes, a theater in Mariupol where civilians were sheltering was bombed. They also had a building that they marked on top with huge letters. I don't know how they did it with paint or whatever. Children are living here.
Wow.
And that building was bombed.
Wow.
And children died. Other children, you saw pictures coming out of the rubble. Sometimes when the war is not going your way, you go after the civilians. You try to, if you go after enough civilians, perhaps, I guess the thinking from the generals would be that they would lose their will to continue to fight if you're, but I don't see that happening at this moment. Today, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin also again reiterated the United States is not going to enforce closing the skies across the Ukraine. President Zelenskyy is doing a round robin of speeches to different parliaments and congresses and senators around the world. Yesterday, yes, he's a smart guy, and he's also an entertainer, so he knows how to get a crowd up and support him, obviously. So yesterday, when he was giving a speech before Congress, he was using Martin Luther King Jr. and the struggle that the United States went through for liberty and justice, and also pointed out to the senator that if you want to be the leader of the free world, which is what the United States claims to be, you got to walk the talk. You can't just talk the talk. I'm paraphrasing what he said. In Germany today, when he was speaking to lawmakers, he addressed the German parliament, and he referenced the Holocaust in Germany. He said, "Every year politicians say never again. Now I see these words are worthless, and Europe of people is being destroyed." And today, on its official Twitter account, the United Kingdom Defense Ministry said the Russian invasion of Ukraine is largely stalled. They have not been able to move. The ministry said Russian forces have made minimal progress on land, sea, or in air in recent days. The vast majority of Ukrainian territory, including all major cities, remains in Ukrainian hands. So this is a war that's going to go on for a very, very long time. I think Putin thought he was going to run over Ukraine. He's not going to. This is going to be a war that's going to be months and months and months, if not years, unless one of three things happens. Putin's removed from power somehow, and there's a new Russian leadership. There is some sort of peace between Ukraine and Russia. They are having peace talks. Or if this war gets out of control, Putin starts using chemical weapons, or perhaps even a tactical nuclear weapon. And the reason why people are concerned about that is because the sanctions are hurting Russia very, very bad right now. you have a caged animal in a corner, they could lash out, especially one that's not thinking rationally. The United States says that over 7,000 Russian soldiers have been killed already in only 3 weeks of combat. That's more soldiers who died in Ukraine for Russia in 3 weeks than all American soldiers who died in Afghanistan in 20 years.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of people. There's more than, according to the Ukrainian military, an estimated 14 to 21,000 injured Russian soldiers. There are reports that Russian soldiers are leaving their vehicles. They're just giving up. They don't want to fight.
Good.
And literally either giving themselves up or just walking the woods and just walking back to Russia. But there are reports of that as well.
Wow.
There's also reports that the Russian military, the regular daily conscripted soldier, didn't know what they were getting into. There's reports that say that some soldiers believed they were going on training. There's other reports that some soldiers believed that they were coming to liberate Ukraine and that Ukrainians would be welcoming them with flowers. And there's other reports that say that some soldiers believed they were going to fight the Nazis.
Wow. So they didn't even know what
they were getting into. And today, the first United States citizen died in Ukraine. His name is James Whitney Hill. He was born June 27th, 1954 in Minnesota. He was killed by Russian soldiers who opened fire on a line of people who were waiting in line to go into a food store to buy food. Because supplies are in short supply all over the Ukraine. It's not like regular, you can walk into a store and get what you want. So there's only a certain amount of people allowed in the store. They're only allowed a certain amount of supplies. They can't go off into the store and buy all the toilet paper. So everybody has to wait in line to go in and just get a small amount of things.
That's horrible.
And apparently Russian soldiers opened fire on this line of people, and more than 10 people got killed, including this American.
That sounds like war crime to me.
Yes. And the House of Representatives voted overwhelmingly today to strip Russia of its preferential trade status in 424 to 8 vote. This will allow the United States to impose higher tariffs on Russian goods. It's just getting tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher for Russia. And there's one guy on Fox News, Tucker Carlson, and I don't know if he's a spy for Russia or a plant, but he's going on Fox News every night, Jonathan, and he's saying Russia has a right to be doing all of this. And Russia is taking all these clips, these clips from Tucker Carlson, and they're showing it to Russians across Russia and saying, look, even the American news is saying we're right. So Russians are not even getting the news, and I don't know what the deal is with this guy. If he's a spy,
who is he?
He's actually the most watched guy on Fox News.
Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a spy. I don't know if he's a plant by Putin. I don't know if he's getting paid to say these things.
I'm sure he's getting paid.
I don't know. On one of the things that Putin used to justify going to war after the Nazi thing, after he was going to liberate, one of the things that he used was the United States was in Ukraine doing biological weapons research. Well, Tucker Carlson on March 9th said, you see, I was right. The Russians say they found weapons research by the United States. Why are we there? Why is he parroting what Putin is saying?
Right. He needs to be taken off.
I don't understand that. On Sunday, Joe Biden's National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan told NBC that Russian claims about biological warfare facilities in Ukraine could indicate Russians' willingness to use such weapons. He said, when Russia starts accusing other countries of potentially doing something, it's a good tell that they may be on the cusp of doing it themselves. There would be no reason why the United States would be conducting weapons research on the border of Russia with a non-NATO aligned, non-European aligned country.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. And did you see Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yes, I did.
His best performance ever.
It's really good.
Best performance ever. Former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, he recorded a searing, inspiring, 9-minute message to the Russian people, the Russian soldiers, and to Vladimir Putin himself, in which he aims to spread the truth about the war in Ukraine and combat the Russian government's disinformation campaign. He started his video saying, "I'm sending this message." Oh, we can play it. Let's play it.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for sharing your time with me. I'm sending this message through various different channels to reach my dear Russian friends and the Russian soldiers serving in Ukraine. I'm speaking to you today because there are things that are going on in the world that are being kept from you. Terrible things that you should know about. But before I talk about the harsh realities, let me just tell you about the Russian who became my hero.
And he went on to say that the justification why Vladimir Putin went into Russia, his justification that he told the Russian people is that he's going to liberate the Ukraine from fascists and Nazis. Let's see what Arnold Schwarzenegger had to say about that.
Know that your government has told you that this is a war to denazify Ukraine. Denazify Ukraine. This is not true. Ukraine is a country with a Jewish president, I might add, whose father's 3 brothers were all murdered by the Nazis. You see, Ukraine did not start this war. Neither did nationalists or Nazis. Those in power in the Kremlin.
So, in a movement to remove the perceived bias, Schwarzenegger drew a clear line of comparison between Russia's actions in Ukraine and the January 6th insurrection in the United States. He said, "I speak with the same heartfelt concern as I spoke to the American people when there was an attempted insurrection on January 6th last year when a wild crowd was storming the U.S. Capitol." I urge everybody
To watch
this video. It was amazing. He did an amazing job. You just have to Google it. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Russia, talks to Russia. And he put it out today. And then send it to all your friends. Let them send it to their friends. Let it get out, because the Russian people eventually they got to know. They got to know that they're being lied to.
For sure.
They're being lied to. And by the way, this was not in coordination with the White House. The White House
did this on his own.
He did this on his own. The White House says they knew nothing about it and only watched it after it was put out. He also, I read that he asked Lieutenant Colonel Vindman. Remember Lieutenant Colonel Vindman? He was the colonel who outed Donald Trump in the he was a Republican, by the way. He outed Donald Trump in the White House and said Donald Trump in 2018 was trading arms to the Ukraine, or asked Zelenskyy to accept arms, but only if they would make up lies about Biden and Hunter Biden to help Trump win re-election. Can you imagine if you look back now, and that, by the way, led to his first impeachment. You look back now about how Trump was so selfish that he didn't even care about the Ukrainian security.
Right.
He was trading his own political selfish motives for the entire Ukrainian. It was holding up security guarantees, holding up military transfers for his own political gain. And look what happened. And did you see WNBA star Brittney Griner? She was arrested apparently sometime in February. She is considered, for those who don't follow the WNBA, the best female basketball player in the WNBA.
She's like 6'9".
And for those who can argue that she's not the best or the second best or the third best, she is considered the best offensive female basketball player in the history of female basketball in the United States of America. She was playing her basketball in Russia. She was getting paid about $1 million to play there, more than she gets paid in the WNBA.
It's crazy to be the best in your game and having to go to another country in order to make some money.
And unfortunately, obviously she didn't know Russia was going to invade Ukraine. She's on a contract and has to play basketball there. And while traveling in an airport, she had a pipe or a vape. Not a pipe, vape. A vape that had some sort of smell of hashish oil. A smell of it. No weed, no marijuana. No, it was a smell of it coming from that vape. And what happened was that she got arrested. The dog smelled it. She got arrested. And quite frankly, she is a political prisoner now of Russia.
Yeah.
She is being used as a pawn by Russia. Had Russia not invaded Ukraine, had the West and NATO not gave all these sanctions, had we not potentially be almost at the cusp of World War III, she would not be in jail right now. The number one player in the WNBA is in jail. And not a lot of people are talking about it.
I was going to say, a
lot of people are talking about it.
I feel like if this was an NBA
If this was LeBron James, who is the number one basketball player.
Him back here yesterday.
Right? LeBron James. Pick the number one basketball player in the NBA.
Honestly, pick any of the top ones. Like, not saying even number one basketball player. Like, any of the top NBA players. It could be James Harden. It could be any one of them. And it would not only be all over the news, he probably would have already been back here. So I'm happy that we're speaking about this, because it's already one thing that she had to go to another country in order to make money, and for something that she's well deserved of. But now we're not even really telling her story. So I'm happy we're talking about that.
Well, she's facing she's facing a maximum of 10 years in prison. She was arrested on February 17th at a Moscow airport, and Russia said she's going to be detained at least until May 19th, maybe beyond.
Sheesh.
The United States State Department spokesman Ned Price said Tuesday at a briefing, they've been doing everything we can to support Brittney and her family and to work with them to see that she is treated appropriately and seek her release. But quite frankly, there's nothing the United States can do. Biden and Putin aren't talking to each other.
Right.
Biden's saying Putin's a war criminal, and Putin arrested this woman. The only way to say she's a political prisoner and was kidnapped.
Aren't Trump and Putin friends? Can't they
Yes.
just talk? Biden should yo, Trump, talk to your boy.
Former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton joined a growing contingent of family, friends, and officials calling for a release with a Free Brittney tweet on Wednesday. And you saw Barack Obama came down with coronavirus, but I think he's going to be okay.
He'll be okay.
He said on Twitter, I had a scratchy throat for a couple of days, but I'm feeling fine otherwise. And there were roughly 35,000 infections over the last week, down sharply from mid-January when that average was closer to 800,000. That's in the entire United States of America.
Good job.
All right, let's do some wacky world news, all right?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We got some wacky news. All right, so person has claimed, Jonathan, that a painting he had bought had turned everything dark around him while putting it up, and he put it up on eBay and listed it as a cursed painting. According to reports, the painting was bought from a flea market, and the seller has priced it to sell on eBay at $96. The painting features two weird dolls and says, "Beware, cursed vintage painting dolls, art creepy, eerie warning, 1967. In its description, the seller has explained how he came to buy the cursed painting and the effects it had on his life. He also said that he bought the art from a woman at a flea market, and she even wrote to him in a warning that he will be cursed before selling it. He admitted not listening to the woman's warning, and he bought the painting, since he liked to collect weird things.
Winning bid.
He wrote, I was struck by the strangeness of the painting. In the beginning, the man had thought that the painting represents spring and rebirth, but soon he realized it only reflected one thing. When he hung it up in his living room, he realized that the woman from the flea market was right. This painting is cursed! He claimed that he faced trouble sleeping, and he rested on the couch, and the frightening dolls were watching him as if they were alive.
Hell no.
He was sleep deprived. He claimed that he took a toll on his immune system and experienced a cold accompanied by incessant, throbbing headaches every time the dolls looked at him. The seller said he spent 5 days facing uneasiness, loneliness, sickness, and sleeplessness. After buying the painting, he claimed that everything grew so dark around him, and he finally decided to list it on eBay to get rid of the curse. And how much was it bought for?
Well, it seems like the winning bid was $1,750.
And now would you buy this painting?
Yeah.
You would?
Absolutely.
You think it's cursed?
Yeah.
And what would you do with it?
You really believe I would buy that painting?
What would you hang it up in your enemy?
What?
You're like,
no.
I'm
afraid of even looking at it now.
What would you buy the painting and say?
No.
I have this enemy, and I'm going to give this as a gift to my enemy.
No, because I believe in karma as well. No, my enemy will deal with their.
Would you
their
give it as
fate
a
on
gift
their own.
and send it to the Kremlin? Say, here, Vladimir Putin, from Bradshaw Live. Hang it up in your office.
I might have somebody else buy it. I don't want it coming from my money, but I might put that, little bug in somebody else's ear and be like, hey, why don't you just do this?
Was that the doll?
That probably,
Was that the doll?
Next one.
By the way, are we cursed just talking about it, showing that picture?
Said. That's why I'm like, buy it? Would I buy it?
Maybe we're cursed through the TV. What was that movie where they cursed through the TV? That horror show?
I don't know.
Did we just curse ourselves?
No, nope, because I didn't look at it.
Meanwhile, Hidden Valley Ranch just made a diamond for $12,000.
What?
Yeah, what? Hidden Valley Ranch, the Chicago-based condiment company, decided to create a 2-carat cut diamond through a process using its famous ranch dressing. Deb Crandall, Hidden Valley marketing director, said in a press release, when one of our custom Valentine's Day bottles was used in a marriage proposal last year, we were inspired. We saw a love of ranch become a part of one's life's most beautiful moments. It made us wonder, how can we make this act of love even more memorable? The company sought the help of geologist Dean Van Den Biesen to make this diamond. In order to do so, Van Den Biesen first heated the Hidden Valley dry ranch seasoning to 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit.
What?
The geologist explained out of that process, the ranch seasoning is transformed into graphite. And graphite is what's needed to go inside the diamond press in order to transform it into a diamond. Once inside the press, the graphite was crushed under 400 tons of pressure for 2 months, eventually creating a beautiful diamond. The jewel was then polished to perfection before being set in a white gold band with the initials HVR LVR for Hidden Valley Ranch Lover engraved on the side. The company put it up for auction, and as of Friday afternoon, the bids have surged over $12,000.
Wow.
And the winner is going to be announced on March 20th. Would you buy in a diamond that was artificially made out of ranch seasoning? I called it dressing. It was ranch seasoning.
Yeah, no.
No. All right, so that's our wacky news of the day. Thanks for watching. For more Bradshaw Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.